My mother grabbed the microphone at my sister's wedding and said, "We have two daughters, one we raised and one who was just extra." The whole room laughed. I was standing near the back, holding a glass of champagne I couldn't bring myself to drink. I watched my sister smile. I watched my mother take a slow, satisfied sip, and I watched every single guest turn to look at me. Nobody corrected her, not one person. I smiled back. Because 3 weeks later, those same people would watch my mother's face turn to stone in a lawyer's office, and there would be nothing left to laugh about. My name is Celeste. I'm 34 years old. I work as a paralegal at a mid-size law firm in the city, nothing flashy, nothing that gets you invited to the front table at a wedding. But that job taught me something most people learn too late. Paperwork tells the truth even when people don't. I know how wills work, I know how estates work, and I know how silence, used correctly, can be the sharpest tool in any room. I grew up in a house where my older sister Dana was everything. Dance recitals, honor roll, the right friends, the right clothes. She was the story my parents told at dinner parties. I was just the background. My mom didn't do it with cruelty, that's the part that used to confuse me. She did it the way you forget to water one plant when you have a whole garden. Casually, without really noticing. My father was different. He was a quiet man. He didn't say much at gatherings, but he watched. He paid attention in the way that only still, patient people do. He passed away 2 years ago, and I still miss him in that low, steady way that never quite goes away. He used to say to me, "Celeste, still waters run deep." I didn't fully understand what he meant. Not until the day a lawyer said my name first. If you've ever been the one who held everything together while someone else got the applause, subscribe right now. Drop a comment and tell me your role in your family. I'm reading every single one. And click hype if you already know where this story is going. The wedding toast didn't come out of nowhere. The truth is, the weeks leading up to Dana's wedding were already a slow, quiet erosion of everything I thought I still had with my family. It started small. My mom called me 3 weeks before the wedding to go over the seating arrangements. She mentioned, almost in passing, that my +1 seat had almost been given to one of Dana's college friends. "We didn't think you'd want to be front and center anyway, Celeste," she said. Her voice was light, the way people sound when they're saying something they know is unkind but have decided to say it anyway. I didn't respond. I just wrote down the date and what she said, the way I do at work when something feels important. At the rehearsal dinner, I overheard my mom leaning close to the wedding planner near the entrance and saying, "The centerpiece table is for immediate family." I was seated 3 tables back, between a second cousin I'd met twice and a family friend whose name I couldn't remember. I ate my bread roll and I kept my face neutral. Then came the toast. My mother lifted her glass, and the room got quiet in that warm, expectant way that wedding rooms do. She smiled at Dana. She talked about Dana's laugh, Dana's strength, Dana's future. And then she turned her head just slightly, and her eyes found me for half a second, and she added, "And to Celeste for being here." A few people laughed. Not meanly, just that uncomfortable kind of laughter people used to fill a silence they don't know what to do with. Under the table, my aunt reached over and squeezed my hand. I didn't cry. I looked up and across the room, I noticed a woman I didn't recognize. Older, composed, in a navy dress. She was watching my mother with a tight, unreadable expression. And then she looked at me. And she gave me a small, deliberate nod, like she knew something I didn't. I had no idea who she was. Not yet. The days after the wedding moved quickly and not in a good way. My mother announced to the family that she would be managing Grandma Iris's estate personally. "We're handling it as a family," she said. The word family, in my mother's mouth, had always had a specific limited meaning. She created a group chat for estate updates. I found out from my aunt 2 days later that I wasn't in it. When I asked my mom about it, she said she must have forgotten. Her tone said she hadn't. Then came Sunday dinner. My mom had everyone over, aunts, cousins, Dana and her new husband. At some point the conversation shifted to me, the way it sometimes does when the person being discussed isn't saying much. My mother told the table that Celeste had always been the independent one. She never really needed the family the way Dana did, she said warmly, like she was paying me a compliment. We always knew she'd handle things on her own. I looked at my plate. I understood exactly what she was doing. She was writing a story, one where leaving me out made sense, where it was even generous, because I didn't need them anyway. She was building her justification before I had even pushed back. The third thing happened quietly, the way the worst things often do. My cousin texted me on a Tuesday afternoon to let me know she'd seen a moving truck outside Grandma Iris's house. By the time I drove over, 3 pieces of furniture were already gone, including a vintage writing desk that had sat in Iris's study for as long as I could remember. I called my mother. "You never had a relationship with your grandmother's things," she said coolly. "Dana did." I hung up. I opened a new document on my phone and started a list. Dates, items, exact words. I had seen situations like this before. Not in my family, in case files. Sitting across a desk from a client who came to us too late. I was not going to be that client. What my mother didn't know was that Grandma Iris had made a phone call I didn't even know about until a letter arrived at my apartment, addressed to me, in handwriting I recognized immediately as a legal secretary's, with a return address from a firm I had never heard of. Grandma Iris used to call me every Sunday. Not Dana, not my mom. Me. We'd talk for an hour sometimes, about books, about cases I was working on, about her late husband, about the garden she still kept even when her hands ached. I was the one who sat with her after her health scare 2 years ago, helping her sort through her important papers in the back bedroom that smelled like cedar and old photographs. She'd said to me that afternoon, "You're the only one who actually sat down with me, Celeste. The others sent flowers." I hadn't thought much of it at the time. I just thought I was being a granddaughter. 8 months before she passed, Grandma Iris had visited a private estate attorney. Alone, without telling anyone in the family. I didn't know that until the letter came. The woman in the navy dress at the wedding was named Patricia Hale. She was a semi-retired estate attorney, and she had worked with Grandma Iris for over a decade. She contacted me the week after I received the letter. We met at a coffee shop near my office, and she explained everything in the calm, precise way that people in her profession do. Iris had asked Patricia to attend the wedding. Not as a guest, exactly, as a witness. Iris wanted someone she trusted to observe how the family treated Celeste in a public setting, one final time, before the estate process moved forward. It was, Patricia told me, Iris's quiet way of making sure her own instincts were right. Patricia looked at me across the table and said, "Don't sign anything, don't agree to anything, and don't let them move one more item from that house." I went home that night and typed a formal letter to my mother on my work laptop. I referenced the pending estate, the premature removal of property, and the legal implications of distributing assets before a will had been formally read. I kept it professional, I kept my tone measured. I didn't tell her what I knew. She forwarded it to Dana the same night. Dana replied, "She always wanted attention, let her have her moment." My mother texted me one word. Dramatic. Neither of them called a lawyer. That was their mistake, and it was the only one they needed to make. 3 weeks later, we sat in Patricia Hale's office on a Thursday morning. The room was cool and quiet, with thick carpet and the faint smell of old paper and wood polish. Patricia sat behind her desk. I sat to the left. My mother and Dana sat across from her, side by side. My mother had worn her good blazer. Dana had her husband with her. They were relaxed. My mother was making small talk about the parking on that street when Patricia opened the folder in front of her. The reading began with the standard items. A donation to a local literacy charity. A small bequest to the church Iris had attended for 40 years. My mother nodded along, already calculating. Then Patricia read, "To my daughter Linda," that was my mother, "I leave the writing desk and my pearl earrings as she always admired them." My mother smiled. She reached over and touched Dana's arm. "To my granddaughter Dana, I leave the sum of $8,000 and my china collection." Dana nodded slowly. She looked like she expected more, but she accepted it. I could see her recalibrating. Then the room changed. Patricia looked up from the document and her eyes moved directly to me. She said, "To my granddaughter Celeste, the only one who sat with me, who listened, and who never once asked what she would receive, I leave the house on Birchwood Lane, the investment accounts totaling $190,000, and this letter to be read aloud." My mother stopped breathing. I could hear it, the absence of sound where her breath had been. Patricia unfolded a second document, and she began to read in Grandma Iris's own words. The Sunday phone calls. The afternoon in the back bedroom with the cedar smell and the stacked papers. The way Celeste never asked for anything, not once. And then the final lines. "Celeste, I saw you at your sister's wedding. I had Patricia there. You smiled even when they didn't deserve it. That is why everything goes to you. My mother stood up. Her chair scraped back hard against the carpet. This can't be legal. Patricia placed the document flat on the desk and said, "It was filed, witnessed, and notarized 11 months ago. It is entirely legal." Dana turned to me. Her voice was tight and low. You planned this." I looked at her for a moment. The room was so quiet I could hear the hum of the building's heating system in the walls. "I didn't plan anything," I said. "Grandma Iris just paid attention. I didn't move into the Birchwood house right away. I gave myself time. I walked through each room slowly over several weekends, and I let it become mine gradually. I replaced nothing of Iris's that I wanted to keep. The garden is still there. I've been learning to take care of it. My mother hired a lawyer to contest the will. Patricia had prepared for that. The documentation was thorough and clean, and 3 months later the challenge was dropped. Dana stopped calling, stopped texting. I noticed the silence, and then, after a while, I noticed that I wasn't reaching for the phone either. On the wall in the living room, I hung one photograph. It's from a Sunday afternoon, taken by nobody important on a regular day. It's just me and Grandma Iris sitting at her kitchen table, laughing at something neither of us probably remembers anymore. She's looking at me the way people look at you when they're proud. I didn't see it then. I see it now every single morning. I spent 34 years trying to earn a place at their table. Turns out, someone had already built me my own. If someone in your family ever made you feel like you were extra, like you were only there to fill a seat, I want you to know that someone always sees the truth. Subscribe and tell me in the comments. Was there ever one person in your family who actually saw you? I read every single one. Click hype to help this story reach every woman who was called the spare and turned out to be the foundation. Standing up for yourself is tough. If you've been there, subscribe and become part of our community. Let me know this story helped by clicking hype. And tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel.